Hey guys, Rob here from Room 301. I'm joined by the very lovely Kathryn Strachan today. Kathryn owns and runs CopyHouse. CopyHouse is a very well-renowned agency doing all things content marketing. She's grown that over the last 4 years or so into a very, very successful business. Kathryn also has a very well-respected personal brand where she has around 15,000 LinkedIn followers. She does speaking engagements around the world, and she's recently written a book which is due to be released in October. Very pleased to be bringing you this conversation today. What she puts in Room 301 is something I think we can all agree is very annoying, and we wouldn't want to see it again if we had the choice. On to the episode.
Welcome back to Room 301. I've got a very lovely guest today. Kathryn, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And thank you for joining us. I know you're a very busy person. We had a bit of a catch up on the before we started recording. It sounds like you've got a lot of great stuff going on. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about you, your business, and all the different bits and pieces that you're doing. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everybody. I am Kathryn Strachan. So, I have my fingers in a few different pies, but one of the pies that my fingers in is the owner of an agency called CopyHouse. So, CopyHouse, we are a content marketing agency specializing in the technology space and in complex industries. We work across financial services, technology, fintech, healthcare. Our main expertise is to help brands bring their messaging to light in a way that their audience understands. So a lot of these brands really struggle because they are working really, really complex subject matters, and it's difficult for them as subject matter experts to translate that to the audience in a way that really resonates with that audience. So we go in there and we help them define what that core messaging should be, what they need to say to their audience, who that audience is, and what, is really going to land with them. And then we look at the market and, help them understand how other people are positioning themselves on the market and what they need to do to stand out. And then we set a content strategy. Once that content strategy is in place, we go into content production. So we do copywriting, design, and social as our three main services. Copywriting can be everything from big ebooks and white papers. We've even written massive, actually published books that clients can, thump on the
Wow.
table. But we do a lot of thought leadership where we interview subject matter experts and then create really technical content off the back of it. And we do product marketing and SEO blogs. And once this content's written, we can then design it. So, ebooks and white papers and infographics all need to sound good as well as look good. And then the other thing we do is social. So we do social media, especially B2B. So building executive profiles as well as company accounts on social media. So creating all the content, posting all the content, and then managing and building those communities. Now I've built CopyHouse from the ground up. So when I started, it was just myself. And today we're about 25 people. That was about 4 years ago. So the journey's been, yeah, fast paced and crazy. And I mean, these days, CopyHouse pretty much runs itself. So I do a lot of things outside of CopyHouse as well. So I act as a fractional CMO to help brands define their marketing strategy. Quite often, clients will come to us as CopyHouse and want to raise brand awareness but not have a marketing strategy, and it's really difficult to engage with an agency or any supplier if you don't have that marketing strategy set first. So I go in as a fractional CMO and help them to define that marketing strategy. What does it look like? What are the levers that you need to pull? What resources do you need? Do you need to hire? What is that going to look like? And then, when you have that foundation, it's much easier to say, okay, we definitely need this agency or that agency. And then the other thing that I do is a lot of speaking. So I'm on this podcast. I've got a book coming out that I'm really super proud of. So my book's going to be out in a few months. It's called Scaling Success, Building Brands That Break Barriers. So I have a lot of expertise in building brand awareness and then helping brands to elevate that. And all of that's captured in the book. So I'm really excited for my book to be coming out. And I'm really excited about, yeah, these things that I'm working on. But that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Awesome. A loaded intro. Lots of, as you say, lots of fingers in different pies. So I'm interested with CopyHouse starting around four years ago, wasn't it? So what's your background there? What led you to starting CopyHouse?
Well, I was a copywriter. I worked at Lloyd's Bank, Scottish Widows, which is like their pension arm. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was a copywriter and I built CopyHouse from the side of that desk. When I started the agency, I didn't realize that I was starting an agency. I
Didn't
simply had
out
too
of
much
all of
work.
them, I think.
Yep. So I had too much work on my hands and I needed help.
Yeah.
So I worked at Scottish Widows and I built a nest egg, and then I used that nest egg to launch the agency. When I launched the agency, I did it by hiring people. I've always been a big believer in investing in people, so I didn't want to use freelancers or, outsource the work. I wanted to be able to build and nurture and develop a team. So I started hiring. And yes, before I knew it, I had an agency. But it wasn't until COVID that, CopyHouse really started to thrive. That was when we really niched down. So I remember at like the beginning of CopyHouse going to like a networking event and saying, "Oh yeah, we work in like travel and recruitment and like technology." And the person I'm talking to being like, "So you do like everything?" I was like, "I guess." But, I didn't really have that clear proposition. It wasn't until COVID happened and we lost a lot of those like travel and recruitment clients.
Sure.
And I really had to look hard at like what we did. I didn't want to furlough anybody or make anybody redundant. So what I did instead was I invested really heavily in the marketing, defined our niche, defined our proposition, and then went really hard after those areas. So by investing heavily in the marketing, it then allowed us to kind of skyrocket out of the pandemic. So, CopyHouse is very much a COVID baby, and we've done very well during what is a very difficult time. And we've done that by having a really clear proposition of what we do and who we do it for, and then investing heavily in our marketing. And my book follows that trajectory. It takes a lot of insights from everything that I did because when I started CopyHouse, I didn't know anybody or have any connections. I didn't have a black book I was bringing from another agency. I had absolutely nothing apart from an idea. So I wrote the book that follows the trajectory of building a brand. So, what was it that needed to happen? How did I go about building a marketing function? And, how then once it was built, did I elevate it? And, that's something that I help my clients in my consulting arm do today is, they often refer to themselves as the industry's best kept secrets. And I've always been maybe a little bit of a chaser of fame because I've always said I want everybody to know my name, and now I want everybody to know my clients' names.
That's awesome. And hats off to you. 4 years, a team of 25 running itself. That's a big achievement. I'm 14 years into this now. 2012 is when, I set up my original agency, and it's not running itself yet, put it that way. We're sort of 35 people strong, and it's every day is different. Every day poses different challenges running an agency, doesn't it? So yeah, no, hats off for you in such a short period of time to achieve that. That's really amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
In terms of this podcast, we're going to split it into 3 core areas from here. So the first of which is called What's in Your Toolbox. Now, I'm really interested as I speak to different marketing leaders, different business owners, different people such as yourself, Kathryn. I'm really interested in what they use in order to keep on top of busy lives, running teams, running businesses, hitting financial goals, etc., etc. Whether it's a piece of software, whether it's a framework, or the way you think about something. I'm just very interested in what's in your toolbox to get you through your task list on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Can I have 2 answers?
You can have as many as you want.
Okay, I definitely have 2 answers. So, I want to share a framework that I use because I am a really big believer in this approach to like creating marketing strategies. And then I actually have like a piece of software tool that I use personally as somebody who has their fingers in lots of different pies to stay organized and do what you're saying of,
Yeah,
stay on top of those to-do lists. So, when I build a marketing strategy, I'm a massive believer in looking at the audience first. So, marketing to me is all about creating relationships and connections with your audience. If you're not doing that, then your marketing's basically failing. You need to build relationships and use marketing to do it at scale. And the best way to do that is to go to your audience. So what I do is I start by looking at who that audience is, where do they spend their time online, what do they care about. You basically want to get to know your audience as well as you know your best friend. So if you had to buy a surprise birthday present for your best friend, you would know what to buy them. It should be the same for your audience. You should know them so well that you know exactly what they would like for a surprise birthday present. So I spent a lot of time looking at that audience profile, building it in workshops, testing it, doing interviews, verifying it. And then this allows me to create a strategy that is super targeted, very efficient, and does the right things at the right time. So a lot of marketers fall into a trap where they try to do like everything all the time, everywhere. And
Yeah.
I really, really disagree with that approach, because I think, especially in today's world, which is so busy, everybody's working with reduced budgets, everybody's got reduced resources, there's never enough to do everything. So if you can't do everything, you have to do the right things. And how do you know what the right things are? Well, this all comes back to like knowing the audience and really lasering in on them. So I start by looking at the audience, and then once the audience is kind of set and, we have that strong understanding of like how the brand can help them as well, I then look at the market. So, who else is out there that is talking to that audience, or who is like serving that audience? It may not even be direct competitors. It might be people who offer a different way for your audience to get the job done that they want to get done. And I look at how they're positioning. What are they doing right with their marketing? What are they doing wrong? What opportunities or trends or themes can we see? You learn some surprising things this way. So I did a strategy recently for one of our investment bank clients over in the US. And when I looked at their competitors, I realized that a lot of investment banks have podcasts. Now, this was not like something that I would have guessed off the top of my head. Most investment bankers are quite introverted. Like, it's not necessarily an industry that you definitely think, oh, they're definitely going to have podcasts. But of, the 5 competitors I looked at, pretty much every single one had a podcast. That then justifies to the client, this would be a good move for you as well. So, looking and taking inspiration from the things that competitors do, as well as perhaps the things that like they're maybe not doing. So maybe they're not building personal brands or executive profiles. Well, then that's an opportunity for the client to really get a competitive edge and, slingshot past the competition. So I like to look at the audience, at the market, and at the competitors, and then take all these insights and everything that I've learned about the business along the way as well, and create this into a marketing strategy. And that marketing strategy should be multi-channel. I see marketing like a bow. You can't only have one string to your bow. You need to have multiple strings to your bow so that you can reach your audiences at different times, at different stages of the life cycle, and really create something that is very dynamic, that works across it. Once that like strategy set, I'm also a really big believer in not just like setting it and leaving it. So a lot of people do this. Well, they'll do a strategy like maybe once a year and then like leave it. But everything you then learn needs to be reflected back into the strategy. So it's about constantly looking at what the results are showing us. What are they helping us to understand even more about the audience? So I did a campaign. I did 3 different campaigns for one of my consulting clients. And what I realized by doing those 3 campaigns was that one of the messages in that campaign resonated a lot more than the other 2. And therefore, rather than like doing different marketing campaigns every quarter, we were just going to narrow in on this one campaign because it was getting us in front of the right audience, that the right types of clients. So by looking at who was downloading the ebook, we saw that we had a lot more people downloading it that were of their ICPs. So this is resonating a lot more. Can we make this into more of like a flagship that we promote and continue to put momentum behind throughout the year instead of doing new campaigns? So, they were new in their marketing journey. So it was good to test those different campaigns, but then we can look at that and we can strategically say, actually, it was good to see if this would work in the market, but we now know that this message resonates the best, and this is what we should go after. So always like going back and looking at that marketing strategy, tracking results, but also like tracking insights into, okay, what is this telling us about our audience, and what insights can we take to take that back in and almost do that process again, and, keep it constantly evolving. So that's kind of a framework I use when I'm creating marketing strategies, that I'm a really big believer in. Now, on the tool side, on like the actual tool side, on like the software side, I'm a big user of ChatGPT, so I use it a lot in my day-to-day. And, it's helpful for doing research. So like if I want to do a big list of conferences and events that, my clients should be at or should be going to, rather than like sitting on Google and having to go individually through lists that other people have made of
Yeah.
conferences and events. I can just go to chat and ask it, give me tech conferences between September and December in the UK. And, of course, I need to go and verify that these exist, but it makes it a lot quicker and more streamlined and straightforward. I use it a lot for like the presentations that I create. So, I'm going to be talking to them anyway. So I'm going to be adding like the flavor to it in my talk, but I don't necessarily need to go and write every single slide myself. So I use it a lot for like the grunt work of what I do, and it makes me much more efficient in my day to day. Where it falls short is in that flair and in that pizzazz. So I see chat as almost like stock in a soup. I mean, you can't just make soup from beef stock. Like, it would be terrible. It would taste awful. Like, nobody does that. But what you can do is, instead of spending hours and hours and hours boiling down the bones to make the stock, you can get a stock cube, put in the pot, and then you can put your flavor, your
I've never thought of it
spices,
like
your
that. I
ingredients
totally
in the
agree.
soup
Yeah.
and make your soup. But nobody else can make a soup like I can make a soup. My soup is very distinct to myself. Whether I use a stock cube or I spend hours and hours and hours boiling down bones is, almost irrelevant. It's all the other stuff that goes in that makes it special.
Awesome. No, I love that. I love both those answers, by the way. ChatGPT is an interesting one. It's kind of in my workflow as well. I mean, should probably use it more for research. I'm not. I mean, you'll find this quite funny given what you do for a business, but I'm not a very good copywriter. My emails always need a little bit of help and stuff like that. So I use ChatGPT to support me with stuff like that. But it's been really invaluable since its inception.
I mean, it's basically a smarter way to search the internet. I mean, instead of having to read thousands of blogs, to get the answer that you want, you can ask it those big questions. I use it to write my emails. I mean, I am a natural writer, so I wrote my book, which is 50,000 words in about 2 months. So I'm a natural writer anyways, but I do use it to respond to like write a draft email, and then I maybe like keep 50% of it and like tweak the rest of it so that it sounds how I want it to sound. But I mean, it will get me some of the way there, even if it's not all of the way. I mean, I would never use it in its like pure form, because if you just take like what it gives you, it's not a good result. But you can take what it gives you and add to it and make it your own, and then it is a good result.
It's interesting what you say about it being a smarter way to browse the internet, because there's only about like 3 or 4 months ago now, the first client we've had where I said, "Oh, how did you hear about us?" "Oh, they searched us in ChatGPT." I was like, "Wow, okay." That's a sign of maybe things to come. We're quite heavy on, organic rankings for our own inbound lead generation and things like that. But to hear that somebody searched in ChatGPT was interesting and quite encouraging as we were found as well.
I used it to plan a holiday recently. I knew that I wanted to go scuba diving. I'm a big diver, and it was July, so I knew I wanted a good diving spot in July, which is not always easy to come by because, like, warm waters impact wildlife sometimes. So asked it, where can I go diving in July that's within, a 4-hour flight of the U.S. I was in the U.S. visiting my family, and it gave me like a list of options. And one of those options was Rotan in Honduras. I was like, okay, that sounds good. So I went, I mean, I did my own research on top of that, but then, spent 10 days diving in July in Honduras, and that was incredible. So, I mean, it can be useful for things outside of work too.
Yeah. It's strange. It's, if I spoke to my family about ChatGPT, they wouldn't have a clue what I was on about. It's like a little, if you're not in the world or in that realm, it's like a little known secret. So yeah, it's interesting. But I'm using it more and more now. But no, really excellent answers. And the second part of the podcast is what I personally find really interesting, especially when I speak to very successful people like yourself, Kathryn, is clearly it's not always been plain sailing. There's always been failures. There's always been things go wrong along the journey. And I'm interested to know if anything that really sticks out in your mind as a failure that sticks with you. You learn a lot from it, and helps you move your career on. So have you got that example with you?
There's so many. I had to ask you before the show what kind of failure did you want, because I have them in spades. I I mean, I think one of the examples, and I wrote about this in my book as well, it's a mistake that I see a lot of other brands making, is wanting to raise brand awareness and then investing in PR before they actually set the foundations of building their own brand. So I'm a big believer that like PR does work, but it only works once you already have that strong foundation. So if you go to a media outlet and you tell them about the amazing 4-day work week trial that you're covering, but you don't have a name that anybody knows, then you're never gonna get the coverage. Where like, if Wise or Monzo or like any of these big names that we all recognize do it, it will be all over the media. And it's a mistake that I see a lot of other brands make. And it's a mistake that I made with House. Before I really invested in our own branding, I hired like a PR agency to come and get us in the media. And then, I got frustrated and upset. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And, we ultimately parted ways. And it wasn't immediately that I realized that actually, I was at fault. But, it was a few months later, 6 months down the line, that I was like, wait a minute, like, it makes sense why they couldn't get us coverage, because this was before I really had a strong personal brand. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew who CopyHouse was. Yeah, I mean, of course, the BBC doesn't want to cover, you know,
Yeah.
some unknown agency with some unknown founder. Of course not. But you do see, I mean, I often see it, and it often makes me want to bang my head against a wall when, yeah, brands that are in similar positions where they haven't, they don't have a strong website, they haven't invested in their founder's brand, they haven't done their own marketing, just go straight to PR as like oh, you're going to be able to get me coverage in like BBC and then everybody will know my name. Well, not quite. You need some foundations first before you can really make that a success. So I think one of the things I learned in like building our marketing was that sometimes you need to always, you need to set the foundations before you can, jump ahead. And there often is no, shortcut. There's no overnight success.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's going to get you on the front pages of all the media outlets, tomorrow when nobody knows your name today. All of the success that you see is a result of people who have put in lots and lots and lots of hard work.
Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
my personal brand today has like 15,000 followers, which is pretty good. But I mean, it's been 5 years in the making. So, it's not something that's happened overnight. And it's something that's taken a lot of hard work
And
and
that's
a lot of,
LinkedIn, right?
yeah, LinkedIn. A lot of posts that like haven't
I was going to say,
performed. A lot
I
of
might imagine that's posting 5, 6, 7 days a week for 4 years, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a long slog. So I mean, I think in today's day and age, it's really easy to see other brands and to think, oh, I can just be that like tomorrow. But, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at the problem. Sometimes you can't just jump from 0 to 100.
No. And I think brand building, it adds weight to any form of marketing or lead generation you do going forward. Google respects it from a search engine optimization point of view. From a paid point of view, it's probably going to improve click-through rates. And from a press point of view, you're going to get more interest from journalists because they recognize your brand. It has lots of different benefits, which sometimes aren't like clear, which is why people, or I often see that some brands don't want to invest quite as heavily in that, because there's not a direct correlation between that and new sales. But actually what it does is adds a lot of weight to all the other activity you're doing.
Yeah,
And really, that's what your agency is doing, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, the main event, room 301. So for anyone that doesn't know, and I'm sure everyone does by this point, but room 301 is a room where we stick everything that annoys us about marketing. If you've ever watched Room 101, the old BBC program, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But I won't go into that. So, Kathryn, what are you going to put in Room 301? What are your marketing pet peeves that you don't want to see again? I mean, you kind of just mentioned one there, to be fair.
Yeah, that was one for sure. I mean, another one that definitely makes me upset is not having a budget. So often when I go into these consulting roles or speak to marketing managers, like they're not given budgets. They're just told, oh, the sky's the limit. Well, the sky's not the limit for anything ever. So it absolutely infuriates me when, finance teams and CEOs don't take the time to like actually define a budget for their marketing team. And the marketing team then is working completely blinded or has to ask for absolutely everything to be signed off, every single expense, even if it's, £100, have to get it signed off. And that's like the worst way to run a marketing. If you're going to do marketing, you need to have a budget. You need to find what the budget is, and then, the marketing people can do their job. I always say that a marketing manager without a budget is like a dog without teeth. It's going to be pretty inefficient and ineffective. So that really pisses me off. And I really wish that founders and CEOs and finance people, if you're listening, take the time, find a budget. It doesn't have to be set in stone. You can redefine it later, but at least give your team the tools that they need to be able to go and do their jobs. And no, a marketing manager is not going to do absolutely everything under the sun for you. It's just not going to happen.
Could not agree more. And again, from just my position, I'm sure you agree, Kathryn, when you go in and talk to prospective new clients who don't have a budget, it's like, well, what's the remit we have to work within here? What?
Yeah, they never know. And I don't know if they are just being cheeky, I just don't want to tell you, don't know, or
Yeah, that can
literally don't know. But I think more times than not, they have no idea. No, absolutely none. I'm like, okay, your business, you have budgets for everything else. You have budgets for people. You have budgets for IT. Marketing needs to be one of those lines as well. So if you can determine a budget for the other things in your business, which I'm really, really, really sure you can, because you are a business and you are, functioning, then you can do it for marketing.
No, I agree. Right, go on. Businesses with no marketing budget.
If only it was that easy.
Never to be seen again. Anything else for Room 301?
Oh, man. Too many things to list. I don't think we have enough time.
No, I think
we will be here all night.
I think
we definitely need a glass of wine to do that.
Is a perfect example here. It's something that it frustrates me. We can't operate as an agency without really defined budget. Businesses really can't operate their business without a defined marketing budget either. And I think what it says to me is that the people who are in control of the budgets, whether it's a CEO, MD, FD, whatever it is, they either don't respect marketing or they just don't quite understand how it works. Because realistically, a marketing budget should be based on historical facts and figures. You should know, especially a mature business, you should know that if you roughly spend X amount over here, you're probably likely to get X amount out over here. You should be basing it on that, all that data you have behind you. You should also be basing it on a percentage of revenue. There's lots of different ways you can do it, but to have no budget at all is very strange. And like you, I agree, it's super annoying.
Yeah, it's strange, but then happens all of the time.
It does. It actually does, yeah. All of the time.
So it doesn't logically make any sense to people who understand. But yeah, it happens literally all of the time.
That's it. Well, look, businesses about marketing budgets has gone in. Another one for Room 301. Kathryn, thank you very much for joining me. If our listeners want to know more about CopyHouse or yourself or your book, where can they learn more?
Follow me on LinkedIn.
Fabulous. I will drop your LinkedIn in the show notes as well. So look, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Kathryn, and we'll see you again soon.